Seconds.
Okay, I'll try and get this crunchy cookie done.
Hello, hello, hello. We're having some sound troubles here. Didn't know we were having. I'm not quite sure why, but we'll figure it out here. Let's see here. It's always something, isn't it? Don't quite know why. Let's go back here, see what we can come up with. All right, let's give this a try. Let's just see here. Bear with me just one little tiny bit. I know that you can hear me, I believe, but unfortunately, we're not going through the right microphone. There's that. So let's see if that's working. And I'm going to open up chat here to see if y'all can, if you're able to hear that. And if you can hear me and I'm clear, just let me know in chat and we'll be good to go. Otherwise, we'll just have to use this one. It's a bummer, but it's how it works sometimes. And like I say, we're working to fix up the computer and get it all ready to go and be able to function optimally. A word I like to use. Right now, it's working sub-optimally. Hello, Craig. Good. Sound is fine. Well, that's all we need. I knew I could count on you. And so first, when we open up, by the way, this is, hi, Linda, how are you? Good to see you. Thank you very, very much. And Jerry, thank you for joining us. As always, chat is open, and we're looking forward to rolling forward here. Let me first say this. I want to send out a special shout to the Campanella family. You guys know we were praying for the Campanellas. For the loss of Miss Betty Campanella, dear person in my life for the last 3 decades. And Mr. Campanella, Joe Campanella, and Betty were married, what is it, 63 years? 62 years. And I have to tell you, Betty and Joe were a team. And so Betty passed away, and her family all right there with her. Just an amazing family. I love them so much. They are treasured in my heart. They really, really are. And so as a result, we were concerned about Mr. Campanella, and unfortunately he fell and broke his hip, and so he had to have an emergency hip replacement and some stuff. And so we're going to continue praying for the Campanella family all around the world. For Mr. Campanella and for all the family. I dearly love them. They are precious people, very, very precious people to me. You just have no idea. They have been key in my life, really. So if you would, just pray for them. And, ultimately, the world is a tough place, isn't it? Don't you think? Everybody around the world. The world's a tough place. There's tough stuff going on. There's people struggling. There's a lot of people hurting. There's a lot of disagreement, unfortunately, too. In the church and outside of the church, and we're not the only ones that disagree with one another. It happens all over the place, and it's kind of how it is, isn't it? That's life. That's life. And I always tell people we can't get all spun out over it, can we? We really can't. We cannot get all spun out over it. And the reason we can't is because we live here on the third rock from the sun. They ought to make a show called that. And we live here. This is where we live. And we have cultures, right? We have cultures that we live in. And we live a certain way. We try to... Well, I think we try our best to meld within the culture. Some folks. Now, there are a lot of people that don't meld within the culture, right? They don't. They don't try to fit in. They come in and to our culture. Now, I can't speak for other countries because I don't live in another country. But I will say this. I'll give you, why not? I'll give you an example. If you live in another country, we'll just ask the live audience, and I guess the chat folks can answer this too. If you live in another country, and they have laws, they have rules, they have laws, things like that, do you have an obligation when you're in that other country to obey that country's law? So we have a lot of bobbing heads. We can all agree on that, the whole group here. And then around the world, I think probably if I looked hard enough, I could see a lot of bobbing heads around the world.
You're a guest in their home.
Okay. I'm glad you said that. Now, Susan just said you're a guest in their home. So you actually took my next point, which is, now let's go from country to home. Now we're talking about a home. So when you go to somebody's home, and they have a certain way of doing things. Let's say you're in a home, and they take shoes off in their home. And they say, would you mind taking your shoes off when you come in? We have a place for you right here to put your shoes. And you get all puffy with them and say, well, I'm not taking my shoes off. You can't make me. I'm not going to do it. So you'll just have to deal with it. Something's going to happen. Somebody's going to have to be... in chat, I'd be interested in all the different personalities we have in chat. I'd be interested in your take on that. When you go to somebody's home, they have a thing. I have been in homes. I don't smoke tobacco. And so, but if I did smoke tobacco, it just would never occur to me to go to somebody's home and just fire up, blaze up. It's just not something that would ever occur to me. I would never think of that. But there are people that do smoke tobacco that, here's another one. We'll throw this in here. Maybe, let's say maybe you go to a home and the folks don't consume alcohol. And they say, hey, just we're having a little get together over here, dinner party, whatever, but there'll be no alcohol. We don't serve alcohol here. We don't consume alcohol in our home. And that's their choice, So then the folks come over and they tote in a cooler, right, of beer and wine. A good red wine. I'm not opposed to a good red wine. You know what I mean? Good one. Capture. Z. Alexander Brown, maybe. A mixed red. Luna de Luna. Whatever. I'm not making any commercials for anybody. I'm just saying, if you ever come over to my house, they don't pay me a dime. If you ever come over to my house and you want to give me a little happy gift, that's one that'll fit. Only costs you about $13. So... But my point is, I wouldn't be offended by that. Why? Because I don't have that rule in my house. Now, I don't want you to get, I don't want you to get banged up in my house. I don't want you to get so drunk that I don't want you to get drunk at all. I don't want you acting a fool. But if it was a teetotaler household and you came into that household, let's say they were non-smokers, they were new, and then you came in blazing up and tipping it back, all that. Right? That would be a clear violation of what would be right. Now, that's a micro. We would call that a micro. But what if it's on the macro? We'll go back to the country. If you come into a country that you don't have a legal right to be in, you just sneak in, you are called a... Alien. Illegal alien. Right? The reason you're an illegal alien is because you don't have citizenship. You just don't have citizenship.
Well, you can be legal.
Right, you could be here on some sort of visa or something like that, a work visa, student visa, all that stuff. But my point is if you are here outside the bounds of law and the requirements of law for that country, you are, in reality, an illegal alien. And that's just fact. I mean, we can make other stuff up and we can say, no, the country belongs to everybody. But I can tell you this, I've been to the Soviet Union. I've been to... the Czech Republic. I've been to lots of countries all over the world, and I can tell you, I had to sneak in if I wasn't supposed to be there. And if I got caught, I was in trouble. Well, apparently in the United States, we don't feel that's the case. Now, one of the most welcoming countries, and I want to say this, right up front, one of the most welcoming countries in the world is Israel. Israel is one of the most welcoming, amazing countries. If you're a Jew anywhere in the world and you're being persecuted, guess what? you can come to Israel. And there are charities. One of the largest charities in Israel is a charity that helps people that are persecuted, Jews in other countries, that come over to Israel, and they need to have a safe haven.
Is that called making aliyah?
Aliyah is coming to Israel, and if you, for instance, if you are not a Jew, but maybe you're converting to Judaism, you would make aliyah, and you would make aliyah in a sense if you were a Jew from another country and you're coming there. But so there's certain things you have to do, though, right? They don't just say, "Well, come on, here's a boat. You just hop on that boat, and whenever you show up, we'll give you some money every month, and we'll feed you because the people are good enough to pay their taxes here and work, and you just kind of do whatever you want to do, whatever whatever you want to do." Right? That doesn't work. A lot of shaking heads. That just doesn't work. And so here we are with this struggle, and I've been thinking about this and thinking about this and thinking about this. I've had a lot of people, obviously I'm a little bit of a controversial figure, as some would say, and whenever, anywhere across the country, if they invite me to come speak or preach, I always say, make sure you listen to at least an hour of my speaking. Go to my website, listen to the stuff, watch interviews, listen to interviews, and then you be sure that you really want me to come and speak. Not that I'm going to be ignorant. I'll be very, very polite and fun and all that stuff. But I want you to know what you're getting. I don't want to come into your place of worship or your place of business or, wherever you invite me to come and not understand and respect the protocol of culture. So all of that to say this, people will say to me, they'll say, Dr. Sean, you are really mean when it comes to undocumented aliens. And I say, well, first of all, let's use the right term. I'm writing a book called Fraud Life. And part of that book is the different places where people lie. And in the writing of that book, I talk about the different micro lies that really are macro lies because they're great glue for each other. They stick together, and then all of a sudden you have a giant lie. Well, undocumented alien is one of those lies. Political lies are really, it's going to be a whole chapter in the book. In fact, it's really 2 chapters, if I'm being honest, if I'm not lying. Hashtag fraud life. And so in that lie of, well, I misspoke, or we want to nuance that, we want to use a more politically correct term. Well, in that, we have a struggle then, don't we? Because it's not true. You're not an undocumented alien, right? Like, for instance, if I go to a Corvette store and they get the 2018 Corvette, but I don't pay for it, I don't give them any of my documentation and my financial information, and I drive out with it, I'm just an undocumented Corvette driver, right? Isn't that the case? Mm-hmm. I'm just an undocumented Corvette driver. I go into a gun shop and I see my favorite, what I've been wanting to have, and I don't have it, and I really want to go get me one. I'm just an undocumented gun owner. No. If I break into a store after they close, there's an expectation you have to pay for stuff. I mean, we have to pay for stuff. So I'm an undocumented shopper. We could go a million miles with this, right? We could go a million miles with this, and guess what? We would be wrong to do it because that would be lying. That would be living the fraud life. The fact of the matter of it is we have co-opted the vernacular, or we have allowed our vernacular to be co-opted. And so there's a certain segment of society for whom a great benefit, getting reelected, to have people that they can manipulate into voting for them, saying, hey, we gave you all this. You get all this money every year for nothing. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to abide by any of our laws, really. And guess what? If you live in a certain city, guess what's going to happen to you? Nothing. Because if it's a sanctuary city, the laws don't really apply to you. We're not going to force, if you violate a federal law, or if you murder somebody and the feds come in, we're not going to turn them over to you. You might say, well, this is kind of political. No. This is not political at all, and I'll tell you why. And I thought about it today. This message came together pretty late today, actually. And I thought about it, and I thought, what question do I get asked a lot? What do people say about the Ninja Pastor most often? And they say, well, some will say, and I got a lot of beautiful, I read them to you, and a lot of beautiful things. Gosh, this was the week for people to write encouraging messages, and I loved it. I love reading them, and I actually love if it's a critical message, or a private message to me. I like that too if it's rooted in fact. Well, I don't like, you sound like you have big front teeth. Well, I do have big front teeth. Whatever. You sound like you don't have any hair. Well, I don't have a lot of hair. Whatever. Or you sound ugly. Well, I am ugly. So, whatever the case may be. But my point of this is, if it's rooted in fact, I'm good with it. I'm real good with it. I'm really, really, totally fine. But here's the thing. People will say one of two things about me and what I do publicly. They will say, oh, you're the sweetest. You saved my life. You helped me with this or that. You talked me out of suicide. You counseled me out of this very tough situation. You encouraged me when I could not be encouraged. You this, you that, you whatever. Or they'll say, my goodness, you're supposed to be some kind of pastor? You're an embarrassment to Christianity. Here is my answer to the statement that I'm an embarrassment to Christianity. We are all an embarrassment to Christianity.
That's for sure.
So I got to thinking, and I thought, well, what about citizenship? Does citizenship matter? And what does the Bible say about citizenship? What does our background? What does our background say? What does our Hebrew roots of our faith say about citizenship? What is the culture? The Roman collision of faith and politics. Really, that's really what it was, a collision of faith and politics. And they've collided, and so you have some real tough stuff that you have to deal with. We have to deal with those if we're to understand Scripture at all. What Scripture is actually saying to us, we have to try to understand the context and the culture. Let me read this for you. Acts 22. I'll read a lot, so just hang in there. Brothers and fathers, listen to me as I make my defense before you now. Now this is Shaul, or Paul. Whenever you hear me say Shaul, Shaul is Paul's real name. We made up a name to make him American sounding, but his name is actually Shaul. When they heard him speaking to them in Hebrew, they settled down more, so he continued. And you see, Paul, or Shaul, could speak multiple languages. Shaul was very smart. You'll understand why here in a second. I am a Jew, born in Tarsus of Cilicia, but brought up in this city and trained at the feet of Gamaliel. And Gamaliel is considered to be one of the greatest, if not the greatest, other than Christ, rabbi ever to walk the planet. If you were selected to train at the feet of Gamaliel, you were something super special. I'm just going to tell you were something super, super special. And so, by him saying this, listen, everybody knew who, if you were a Jew, and even if you weren't a Jew, you knew who Gamaliel was. Gamaliel was really, really the man. But brought up in this city and trained at the feet of Gamaliel in every detail of the Torah of our forefathers, I was a zealot for God, as all of you are today. I persecuted to death the followers of this way, and way is capitalized. So this way, I want to stop there just for a second. When people will ask me, what denomination are you? What faith are you? Are you Protestant or Jew? Are you, what are you? Thank you very much. What are you? Are you Protestant or Jew? And I say, well, I would be considered a Protestant. I'm not a Jew. I wasn't born a Jew. I'd be proud to be a Jew. I'd be smarter if I was a Jew. But the fact of the matter is, that's a factual statement, by the way. We go by percentages, and the smartest people in the world, Hebrew people, are by and large the smartest people, the most inventive people in the world. Mm-hmm. All right, let me take a drink here right quick. I've worked up a thirst. Prattling on. So that being the case, we can look at this and I can say with confidence that if you were to ask me what faith am I, I'll tell you I am a follower, small f, of the way, capital W. I'm a follower of the way. And people will look at me funny and they will say, well, what is that? Is that some branch of some weird thing? Are you some branched off weird thing? And I say, well, some would say, many would say, actually most would say, I am kind of a weird thing, but it is the origin. Christian, to be called a Christian during this time frame was a pejorative. It was not that was not a positive. So if you were to have to answer up for who you were, or you were saying who you were, or your faith, you would say you're a follower of the way. And so that's what I am. So that's what he identifies. Now, we have a little conundrum here, don't we? Because we have a conundrum here because he says, I was a zealot for God, as all of you are today. I persecuted to death the followers of this way, arresting both men and women and throwing them in prison. Now, he studied at the feet of Gamaliel. Did he say, and I was on the police department? I served on the police department, local state police. I was a police officer. I was a detective, whatever. No, he didn't say that at all. He was a religious person. But it says right here, he threw people in jail. It says he persecuted people. Well, that's something we have to understand before we can move forward. The religious, now here they are living under essentially occupation, if you will, and they're living there. They're having to obey multiple sets of laws. Their original Jewish sets of laws, which they weren't, basically during this time, the Romans were pretty hands-off for the most part. They said, look, you handle your business. Don't bring trouble to us. That's fine. We occupy you, but don't bring trouble. We don't need trouble. And we certainly don't want trouble out of you. So, slow down, slam dancer. Ease up. Follow your own laws, enforce your own laws, and we'll be fine. And don't violate any of ours. Could the Jews violate Roman laws? Not necessarily, except for where they were given dispensations for who and what they were. So moving forward, we have this collision here a little bit, because he's saying that he persecuted to death followers of the way. Let's go back a little bit. He was a full-on, hardcore, observant Jew of the highest order. I mean, he's top-notch. If how fancy your costume was, he was the Liberace of Jews. Let me just tell you that. Not gay, but he was the Liberace. I mean, he had the fancy outfit. That's if you're going to have a mental picture, the worst mental picture ever. But the point of this is he was at the top. I mean, he was really, really the man when it came to observance and all these things.
Didn't they have their own sets of soldiers?
They did. They had their own soldiers. They had all these things. But a guy like Shaul or Paul had such power, even to the point of, as long as he was within the religious laws, the Hebrew laws, killing people who didn't observe. Very legalistic. So that's the picture I want you to have. And he could throw people in prison. So 22:5, Acts 22:5, the Kohen Hagadol and the whole Sanhedrin can also identify to this. Indeed, after receiving letters from them to their colleagues in Damascus, I was on my way there in order to arrest the ones in that city too, and bring them back to Jerusalem, which is Jerusalem, for punishment. As I was traveling and approaching Damascus, around noon, suddenly a brilliant light from heaven flashed all around me. Now, I just want to say this. A brilliant light from heaven. A brilliant light from heaven. Don't you find it interesting that he said it that way? A brilliant light from heaven? Has that ever occurred to any of you listening here around the world? A brilliant light. He could just said brilliant light, right? He could have said brilliant light. I'm sure there's not a word limit here. I said, okay, you got to write this in 2,500 words or less. If you're over, we're going to give you a D. So I want you to understand that he didn't say a brilliant light, zip, and nothing else. He said a brilliant light from...
Where else would it have come from in those days?
Well, up in the sky. He could have said in the sky, the sun shone brightly on me. It hit a reflection. It hit a piece of whatever that was reflective. The desert sun was bright. He specifically delineated this light as being from heaven. Being from heaven. And it flashed all around him. I fell to the ground and heard a voice saying to me, Shaul, Shaul, why do you keep persecuting me? Those who were with me did see the light, but they didn't hear the voice of the one who was speaking to me. Let me read that again slowly. All right, let me go back. I fell to the ground and heard a voice. Heard a voice. Did he say, I heard a voice in my head? He said, I heard a voice. So before the modifier was, where's it from? From heaven. Here, the lack of modifier says, he heard a voice. Not in his head, it was audible. Are you with me?
Yes.
And the voice said to me, Shaul, Shaul, or Paul, Paul, why do you keep persecuting me? Those who were with me did see the light, but they didn't hear the voice of the one who was speaking to me. They saw the physicalness of the light, but they didn't hear the voice of the one speaking to Shaul. Why? Have you ever thought, why could they see the light but not hear the voice and the understanding, the message that Shaul was receiving? Now, before you answer, let me just say this. Wouldn't it have been easier on Shaul or Paul if it was, I see the light and I hear the voice this man is hearing? I hear it too. Wouldn't it have been easier on Shaul to explain what was happening? Or, honestly, if they heard the voice too, would there be any explaining to do? No. His reputation preceded him. I answered, Sir, who are you? And this is the answer. I am Yeshua from Nazareth, or Jesus of the Nazarene, he said to me, and you are persecuting me. Now let's go back. I wonder if you ever picked this up. I persecuted to death the followers of this way, arresting both men and women and throwing them in prison. Did he persecute Yeshua, Jesus Christ, from the Nazarene to death? Did he say that there? Did he say, I've persecuted Jesus the Nazarene? No, I'm reading it for you verbatim from the Complete Jewish Bible. He didn't say I'm persecuting Jesus. He said I'm persecuting the followers of this way. To death. He did it to death. Was he ashamed of it? Was he a secret guy? No, it wasn't done in secret. It was very much in public, making an example. But he didn't say, I persecuted Jesus of Nazareth. He said, I persecuted these people, the followers of the way, yet Yeshua, Jesus of Nazareth, said to him in this voice that the other people couldn't hear. They could see the light, but they couldn't hear the message. And he heard the message said from Jesus himself, said, why do you persecute me? Why do you persecute me? But he didn't say, why do you persecute me? He said, why do you keep persecuting me? Why was this important? The keep part of it. I want you to understand, the keeping part of it was, this was an ongoing mission on the part of Shaul or the Apostle Paul. It was an ongoing mission of which he was not ashamed and of which he did not tire and of which he had a lot of support both within the muckety mucks in the Hebrew law keepers and all of that. He wasn't a guy that was an outlier. He wasn't some crazy person. He wasn't the lone shooter. homegrown terrorist. That's not who he was. And he kept doing it. He was known for it. This is powerful, folks. I don't want you to miss this. I believe I know why the voice of Yeshua of Hamashiach, Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus the Messiah, I believe I understand now why the other people around could not hear the voice. They could see the light, but they couldn't hear the voice. Because that instruction was not for them. That message and that mission that was about to come was not for them. It was for him and him alone. And the step of faith to act upon something that he clearly could see, these other people didn't hear. It's easy to act upon something that you know everybody else in the room heard the message. Right? We're all in the same room. We all hear the same message. It's easy to leave out of church and act upon that same message, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Because we all heard it together. But what if you were the one, the only one, who heard the message from Jesus? What if Jesus gave you a message, a mission, and a message that you're the only one that hears it? How hard is that to follow? It's very difficult to follow. I answered, Sir, who are you? I am Yeshua from Nazareth. He said to me, and you are persecuting me. Listen, if you persecute followers of the way, you are persecuting the way. If you persecute followers of the way, Jesus Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach, as you do unto the least of these, you have done unto me, good and bad. Now, I don't know about you, that ought to make you feel good. I missed it a whole bunch of times. 11 years of postgraduate education, I missed that inference. Not just that you're with me and I'm with you, but you hurt them, you hurt me. You're going after them, you hurt me. Christ is not ambivalent to our suffering. He's not ambivalent to our suffering. There's going to be suffering this side of the veil. Make no mistake about it. There's going to be suffering. But I'm here to tell you, I'm here to thank you, by the way, to the folks, ClearGov, for retweeting this message. I appreciate that. And the link to this message, they just did that just now. Thank you so much. So here we have this real conundrum, this real struggle here, and that is this. We are his, and he is ours. That's who we are. That's what we are. And so now we have this struggle, and it's a real struggle, folks. Let's be honest here. It's a real struggle. This struggle is for real, and I'll tell you why it's for real. Because you know what our biggest problem is, and I'll explain the biggest problem that we have by explaining what my biggest problem was in high school, and really up until not that long ago, really was a struggle. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know who I was. I had no clue who I was. I didn't know what people thought of me. I knew what I thought of some people, but I didn't know what people thought of me. I just kind of wandered about doing my thing. I thought everybody thought I was stupid and skinny and had buck teeth and big ears and, shiny hair and whatever. I did. I just didn't know what people thought of me. I had no clue. And then as I became an adult, people started coming out of the woodwork saying such nice things. Somebody said something nice about me? Ooh, they must think I'm somebody different. It's a lot of years, And I have to say that it was kind of a beautiful thing. Some folks have told me they thought I was stuck up. I was a poor old Sussex County country boy. I wasn't stuck up. I was shy. I was shy. I mean, I talked to folks if I knew them, but there was a big thing. A big change in my life. So let's say identity, right? We'll call that identity. How many here know, even at the age that you are, we've got ranging from 18, 19 to
95,
all the way up to 82, 83, 84. Okay. So in this room, and then we've got obviously in chat, and then those listening around the world, it'd be difficult for you to answer this. But at your age, Are you able to say at this point in your life you truly know completely who you are? Your identity. You know your identity fully and completely. I can tell you that I'm 52, right? I'm 52 years old, and I'm not fully aware in a personality or a secular basis who I am. I'm really not. But I'll tell you what I do know. I know whose I am.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Amen.
I know whose I am. I don't struggle with that. I don't have a struggle with that. I don't sit around and go, well, gee, I wonder whose I am. I wonder if God really has taken me into his kingdom. I wonder if he really has sealed me against the judgment. I wonder if even though I'm stupid and I do dumb things and I fail and fail and fail and I have all these hurts, habits, and hang-ups, I wonder if he'll accept me into his presence. I don't struggle with that. I really, really don't. Craig from upstate New York says, too old. I'm too old. So I want to be clear here. I want to tether this. Now, obviously, this wasn't written for us. You guys know some different passages were not written for us. They were written for that time and that place and that reason. And we can read about it and learn about it. But if we take from that culture, we take from all of those things that were going on there, and we try to extrapolate that to here and say, well, we should do this or we should do that, we're doing wrong. We're making ourselves crazy, and there's no need to do it. That's not what it was meant for. Now, there are passages that, because of the tensing of the passage, it is specifically written for us and moving forward. For us and moving forward. For them and to us and to moving forward. For all generations, because of how it was done. Get you one of those tensing Bibles that'll tell you aorist in all the different tensing, and it's fascinating. Dr. Spiros, God rest his soul, Spiros Zodhiates. We don't agree on everything, but he wrote a Bible that I dearly love called the AMG Hebrew Greek Word Study Bible. And it'll really break down each word in the Hebrew and in the Greek. It's powerful. But it also gives you the tensing of it so you understand who is he talking to. Anyway, all that said to say this, I want to take you back a minute when we talk about identity. I fell to the ground, this is Shaul or Paul, and heard a voice saying to me, Shaul, Shaul, or Paul, Paul, why do you keep persecuting me? You persecute my people, you persecute me. But in verse 9, those who were with me did see the light, but they didn't hear the voice of the one who was speaking to me. The message was just for Paul, not for the people. And then here we go. I said, what should I do, Lord? Capital L. What should I do, Lord? That's reverence. That's respect. That's acknowledging him as the Lord and Savior. Before he ever came out of his mouth and said, I believe that you resurrected. Why were people put to death? Why were people put to death? They were not put to death because they believed in Jesus. They were not put to death because they saw miracles. And yes, this person was dead and he raised them from the dead. They were blind. I've known them since birth. And he did this and I was there and I saw it. The soldier, I saw the daughter. She was dead. I know Lazarus. Lazarus was dead. He stunk. I saw these things happen. That's wonderful, the religious police would say. That's wonderful. That's great. We don't have a problem with that. But do you say that he resurrected? Hold on. I didn't say that. No. I didn't say that. Hey, slow down, Slam Dancer. Don't try to put words in my mouth. Or they said, he rose, as prophecy said. You know what? We don't have a problem with anything else you said, but that little bit of resurrection business you just talked about, we're going to have to kill you for that. We're going to have to take you out for that. So sorry. What should I do, Lord? He's asking the Son of Man, what should I do? What a turnaround. What a complete and utter turnaround. He said, what should I do? One moment he's going in a direction to kill more followers of the way, to persecute them, throw them in jail, and kill them. One moment he's holding the coat of Stephen, holding coats, so that Stephen can be killed. And in this moment he says, what should I do, Lord? It can turn around fast. if only we acknowledge the identity of the King. What should I do, Lord? And the Lord said to me, get up and go into Damascus, and there you will be told about everything that has been laid out for you to do. Now that takes a step of faith, because all this is happening within the eyes of these people. I never really picked up on that too much before. They saw a light, but they didn't hear a voice. This fella's acting a fool. We know him to be a smart guy. He's educated at the feet of Gamaliel. You don't get to do that unless you're sharp. You're the top of the top. You know, you're varsity. You're A-team. You're a tier 1 operator. No, they're not hearing a word of this.
Not to mention now he's blind.
Now he can't see nothing.
Oh, true.
Right? Got to go get him one of them handicap tags and little sticks with the red tip on the end. The instruction is just crazy. Come on, now he's got an instruction that's just straight up crazy. Says, go here to this place, and when you get there, I'm going to tell you what to do. You'll receive instruction. Just go there. Now, what do we want? We want all the instruction up front, right?
Yeah.
We want the forward of the book. We want the forward of the book. We want the introduction of the book. We want the table of contents, because we're going to skip ahead.
What's going to happen?
What's going to happen? We get there. We're going to skip ahead.
And I read the epilogue.
Right? Going to read the epilogue. Going to read the back of the book. Going to read all that stuff. People are telling stories of truth here. She's admitting. She's confessing. So here's the thing. So we're the type of people, we want to know the whole answer. We want to know it, and we want to know it now. We don't want to have to wait until the end. No, we don't want to have to wait until the end. Tell me the answer now, because I don't want to wait, because I'm not a waiter. I'm a doer. Maybe. You know, we want to know all of it. We want to know the whole thing. We want to know the whole instruction, so we can say yes, and so we can plot how we can say no. Go here, go do this. You'll be told everything's been laid out for you to do. I had been blinded by the brightness of the light, so my companions, by the way, my companions who heard not a word of this, they saw the light, they didn't hear a word. So my companions led me by the hand into Damascus. A man named Hananiah, an observant follower of the Torah, who was highly regarded by the entire Jewish community there. Now let me touch on that just half a second, because I'm almost already out of time. This stuck out, right? Did any of y'all pick that up? An observant follower of the Torah, capital T, who was highly regarded by the entire Jewish community there. Now, what did he say? What did he not say? What's important that he didn't say in that statement? He was an observant follower of the Torah who was highly regarded by the entire Jewish community there.
Didn't say he was a follower of the way.
Somebody say it louder. It did not say he was a follower of the way. He was not on our team. He wasn't on Team Shaul now. He wasn't on Team Jesus. He was on the other team. He was the team that when Shaul or Paul would walk into the room and go, "Oh, so glad to see you. Got any rocks we could throw at these people? These followers of the way are crushing us. They're getting all up in our nerves. We're just tired of these Christians mucking up our whole thing. We got to get rid of these folks. We got to straighten them out. Good to have you. I hear you're good at killing Christians." So he's sending him to him. He's an observant follower of Torah. He's highly regarded by the whole Jewish community there. He's got a base of people who support him and follow him and say, he's our guy and we believe how he believes. What he says we'll do. He came to me and stood by me and said, "Brother Shaul, see again." Exclamation point. And at that very moment I recovered my sight and saw him. Now let me say this about that. Don't miss this. This is important. What did he just say about Hananiah? He said he was a follower of Torah. He said that he was highly regarded by the Jews. He did not say he was a follower of Jesus. Not one hint of that. And yet he said, "Brother Shaul, see again." And he said it with emphasis because there's an exclamation point there. And at that very moment, there was no delay, no committee to meet and say, well, should we or should we not allow this miracle to happen, to have the sight return? Should we or should we not allow? Because there was rumor of a light. Couldn't hear anything. He was talking. We didn't hear who he was talking to. Little wacky. Maybe he hasn't eaten. His blood sugar's off a little bit. So we're going to talk about ways that we can help Shaul back to normalcy. No. This Torah observant, highly regarded Jew says, see again.
Okay.
And instantly he saw. Don't tell me God can't use certain people that don't look like they would be used to advance his will and his kingdom. Don't tell me that. I'm telling you, as sure as I sit here, he will use the most unlikely of people and the most unlikely of circumstances to bring about his will and his way. Stop trying to force your way into his will. Let him allow his will to guide your way. At that very moment, I recovered my sight and saw him. He said, the God of our fathers determined in advance that you should know his will, see the Tzaddik, and hear his voice, because you will be a witness for him to everyone of what you have seen and heard. So now, what are you waiting for? Get up, immerse yourself, and have your sins washed away as you call on his name. After I had returned to Jerusalem, it happened that I was praying in the temple, and I went into a trance, and I saw Yeshua. Hurry, he said to me, get out of Jerusalem immediately, because they will not accept what you have said about me. I said, Lord, they know themselves that in every synagogue I used to imprison and flog those who trusted in you. Also, that when the blood of your witness Stephen was being shed, I was standing there too in full agreement. I was even looking after the clothes of the ones who were killing him. But he said, get going, for I am going to send you far away to the Goyim. Who's the Goyim? Gentiles, right? The non-Jews. I'm sending you out into them. Tell the story I've given to you to tell to them. They had been listening to him up to this point. But now they shouted at the top of their lungs, rid the earth of such a man. He is not fit to live. They were screaming, waving their clothes and throwing dust into the air. So the commander ordered him brought into the barracks and directed that he be interrogated and whipped in order to find out why they were yelling at him like this. But as they were stretching him out with these leather strips called thongs to be flogged, Shaul said to the captain standing by, is it legal for you to whip a man who is a Roman citizen and hasn't even had a trial? The brakes have been applied here. He said, whoa. Y'all need to slow down and back up. Put your beeper on. Let people know where you're going, because you're backing up. Because you've overshot your parking space here. You've outrun your coverage. You have done the wrong thing, because I am a Roman citizen, and with citizenship comes rights and responsibilities. I talked about in the opening about people just waltzing into people's country and saying, this is how it's going to be. To take that flag down of your country, I want my flag. If your country was so great that you want to put your flag up all the time, you should probably stay there. If your way in your country is so great, now look, if you have I love good food. And if your country has good food, bring it here and show me how to make it. I'll eat it and I'll like it. If y'all have celebrations that are fun, bring them here. I'll love it. I'll celebrate right along with you. But don't come here and tell me I've got to do it your way and disband with our way. That's not going to happen. Well, it is happening, unfortunately. Where did they get jammed up? Where did these people, who he's in there telling all this story to, where did he tell these people? What got them? Where did they stop? They flipped out. They flipped out at a point, right? I just read this, right? They'd gotten to that point up to then. He'd let him talk. They'd been listening to him at this point. But now they shouted at the top of their lungs, rid the earth of such a man, he's not fit to live. What did he say? He said God, the Son of Man, Jesus of Nazareth, Yeshua HaMashiach, said, get going, for I am going to send you far away to the Goyim. What? The Goyim, the Gentiles, no, we don't mess with them. They're dirty, they're unclean, they're not worthy of the kingdom. Now, the kingdom to them was very different than the kingdom of the way. The followers of the way. It was just a very different thing. Here's a problem. Now, we got a problem. We saw a hot button, didn't we? You ever know somebody, you can talk to them, talk to them, talk to them. You say this one thing. They're fine until you say this one thing. Pooh! Question my integrity, question my honesty. Oh, rut-row. Sean Greener just about flies red hot. Country boy comes out, redneck, revival happens, and I'm like, oh no, you didn't. Question my truthfulness. Question my intentions. Question my heart. That's for me. I mean, I don't know what it is for you all, right? Different people they're different ways, right? Different things are hot buttons for people. This was a hot button for these people. They were fine with everything else he said, but boy, when he said, and Jesus of Nazareth said, go to the Gentiles, they flew red hot in a hurry. Said he's not fit to live, rid the earth of him, throwing dust into the air. And then they were going to beat him, find out what in the world. But he was smart. He had citizenship. He was a Hebrew and he was a Roman citizen. And you know what? At some point or another, citizenship means something. Now, let me say this. Citizenship from a documentation standpoint means something. Citizenship in the kingdom means something. Why? Because Jesus, when he spoke to him, when that bright light and the voice, the only person could hear the voice was Shaul or Paul, he was speaking to one of his subjects. And how do we know that? He said, what shall I do, Lord? Capital L. Sometimes we got to know our place, folks. Don't we? We got to know our place. We spend a whole lot of time recreating God in our own image. We spend a whole lot of time trying to figure out how we're going to do it our way. Don't we? Listen, you go ahead. One of my friends is Jill Tamarisi, and her son was a Marine who was in captivity in Mexico, languishing in a Mexican prison, being beaten and tortured and all these different things. You guys know this is a real deal. This really did happen. He's also a friend of mine. Nice kid, amazing family, and he languished. Now, do you guys know who got him back? He wasn't the president yet.
Trump.
There's a hint. Come on, somebody. There's a hint.
Trump.
Wasn't the president yet. President Trump. President Trump and a couple other amazing Americans negotiated that deal when our government and the administration couldn't do it for all that time. He made a wrong turn. He was in the desert.
Wouldn't do it.
Pardon?
Our government wouldn't do it.
Wouldn't do it. Our government wouldn't do it. Our government wouldn't do, not couldn't. You're exactly right. Thank you for correcting. Not couldn't do it. Wouldn't. They had the power to do it, but they didn't have the will to do it. And President Trump, then just a regular citizen, said, no, we can't have this. You know, he flew his personal jet to go get him and provided doctors and all of this. Medical care, the whole bit. Amazing.
Oh, he's so mean.
He has done so many amazing things. That is the tip of the iceberg. So my point here is this, and I see we're real close to the end, and I don't want to hold y'all. I held y'all over last time, and you're going to charge me extra for going overtime. They're stretching him out to be flogged. Is it legal for you to whip a man as a Roman citizen who hasn't even had a trial? You know what you have to know? The country you're in, you had better know the rules. You had better know the rules. You had better know what the law is. You better know what the custom is. Well, we don't care what the custom is. Right? As Americans, sometimes we go to other countries. We don't care. We're bossy. We're bossy. I'm an American. I don't have to learn your language. But somehow or another, when folks come to our country, we say, you're not an American and you don't have to learn our language. Right? We say the same thing. Here, we'll give you money, but you don't need to learn English. Or you don't need to agree to any of our ways of doing things. You just keep doing your way. One of the weirdest calls I ever got as a police officer, I had to go in and assist a police officer in this municipality. There were Muslims killing goats in the backyard of a row home.
Wow.
And there's people all around going, this is the most god-awful thing I ever heard. Never heard this mess in my life. These are city folk, right? And I drive down and I have to walk through some back alleys and stuff. And what in the world am I going to find? And they're cutting the heads off of chickens in the city and bleeding out goats. Yeah. Yeah. They had goats running around, blood just squirting out everywhere, waiting to bleed them out because this is their tradition. And folks were freaking out. Justifiably so. And when I went up there, I couldn't speak their language, but a guy that happened to show up said, I speak English and, their language, so how can I help you? I said, somehow or another, you got to tell them, put them knives down, first of all. They had big old knives, looked like they hadn't been sharpened. Because in their culture, in the Hebrew culture, it's all about minimizing or eliminating the pain to the animal. In the Islamic culture, it's all about maximizing it.
Why?
It's because that's how it is. So, the point I have here, tolerance, Jerry from Pennsylvania, tolerance is the beginning of the end for a country. You better believe that. Better believe that. So here's, I got to kind of cut to the chase here. I'm prattling on. You have to know the laws. Now, the boy, let me clear something up real quick. The boy that was over in North Korea, at first, I was really angry at his parents. I was angry at him. I was angry. Why did this fool go to North Korea? What in the world? Here's a little tidbit of fact that I hadn't heard when he was taken into custody, and that was this. Number one, he didn't steal anything. He didn't steal anything. There was a paper poster that had a piece of tape on it, one piece of tape on it, and it was on the wall, and he thought, oh, well, this is temporary. I think this would be a neat keepsake. Also, he didn't go to North Korea because he was some dumb kid. He was an incredibly, Warmbier was his name, some incredibly smart kid. He was really intelligent. But you want to know something else? He was a Christian. And he went with a group that was a Christian group that said, it's fine. And guess what? At that time, North Korea wasn't on any sort of protection list. You could travel to North Korea. If you could get in there and get out, there was nothing restricting you. So he went. He went. His parents asked and asked and asked, is this safe? Are you sure, Otto? Are you sure? And then they talked to the people. No, Otto's a grown man. He's in college, but he's a grown man. He's in his 20s. And go talk to the people. And they went and talked to the people running the tour. And they said, yeah, we've gotten no warnings from the government, the State Department, the CIA. Nobody has said no problem. So, and we've been there and back before, and we've never had a problem. This kid gets tortured to death, gets absolutely tortured to death. They send him basically back on life support, and then once he got here, he died. I said all that to say this, that sometimes when we go into a place, you had better know the customs, you had better know the laws, you better know the rules. And you know what one of those places is, and nobody likes to talk about it, is heaven. There's some rules. There's some vetting that happens with heaven. Now, in this country, we've lost track of that, right? Because we say, well, just let them in. We're loving. And we know that there's one side of the aisle that is very, very focused on that. And that's because they have found, wow, these are votes. We can get listen, if we give them $47,000 each a year and a place to live for free, they will love us and they will vote for us. We don't care what they're going to do to the country in the meantime. But the fact of the matter is these are the people we want because they'll vote for us to keep us in office. We don't really care about the citizens. We care about staying in power. It's important to understand what Shaul says here. Is it legal for you to whip a man who is a Roman citizen and hasn't even had a trial? Is it legal? God doesn't violate his own rules. And you know what? When a government was being led, people point to the verses that talk about the authority that God has put into place. We're to obey them, and they wouldn't be there if he didn't want them there. The type of authority we're talking about here, we're talking about a just authority. When an authority is unjust, you'll see by the things they do. Listen, if you tell me that it is okay to sell baby parts, and that we're to follow the law of the land, and then that's okay, and to kill millions of babies a year, and that's okay, but a coach can't kneel on his own at the end of a football game and pray silently to himself. You tell me that it's not okay for a guy like Tim Tebow to have on his eye black 316, John on the one side, 316 on the other. You tell me that it's not okay for somebody to have a memorial on their cleats to 9/11 first responders and the people that were killed. But it is okay to kneel and disrespect the flag of these United States of America, a country founded on Judeo-Christian values. Then we've got a problem in America. The problem isn't that the people coming in don't know the laws, what is legal. The problem is we don't know the laws and what is legal. Let me say this and then I'll be finished. I've held you all too long. When the captain heard that, he went and reported it to the commander. Do you realize what you're doing? This man is a Roman citizen. The commander came and said to Shaul, tell me, are you a Roman citizen? Yes, he said. The commander replied, I bought this citizenship for a sizable sum of money, but I was born to it, Shaul said. At once the men who were about to interrogate him drew back from him, and the commander was afraid too, because he realized that he had put this man, who was a Roman citizen, in chains. However, the next day, since he wanted to know the specific charge the Judeans were bringing against him, he released him and ordered the head Kohanim and the whole Sanhedrin to meet. Then he brought Shaul down and put him in front of him. Now, this next couple of verses, I'll say this real quick and then I'll let you go. Shaul looked straight at them and said, brothers, I have been discharging my obligations to God with a perfectly clear conscience right up until today. But the Kohen Hagadol, Hananiah, ordered those standing near him to strike him on the mouth. And Shaul said to him, God will strike you, you whitewashed wall. Will you sit there judging me according to the Torah, yet in violation of the Torah order me to be struck? The men nearby said, this is the Kohen Hagadol of God that you are insulting. Shaul said, I didn't know, brothers, that he was the Kohen Hagadol, for it says in the Torah, you are not to speak disparagingly of a ruler of your people. But knowing that one part of the Sanhedrin consisted of Sudokim and the other Prushim, Shaul shouted, brothers, I myself am a Purush, the son of Prushim, and it is concerning the hope of the resurrection of the dead that I am being tried. We'll stop there, but I want to say this about that. Folks, we spend a lot of time arguing and fussing over stupid stuff, don't we? In our own personal lives, let's taking faith out of it. In our own personal life, we spend a lot of time getting spun out over stupid stuff. One of my aunts calls it Twitter-pated, getting all Twitter-pated over stupid stuff. We do. We get spun out, and then we get out of control, and then before long, everything's all crazy, and then, but you know what? We get mad over stupid stuff too, don't we? Mm-hmm. We do. I do. I said before, I have my buttons. I have my buttons. Call me a liar? Woo, we're going to throw down. Call me unpatriotic? It'll be a throwdown. Some stuff will happen. You hurt one of my people that I love and treasure, going to be a throwdown. Just is what it is. But people of faith, followers of the way, we have to understand something very, very important here. We cannot lose sight of what our actual mission actually is.
Dr. Greener returns next Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And in the meantime, he'll be working to restore your freedom and your liberty. He will engage in the collision of faith and politics for you and with you. In the meantime, remember to follow him on Twitter at the Ninja Pastor and follow him on Facebook. Dr. Greener's controversial book, Excellence Killed the Church: How Mediocrity is Destroying America, is available on Amazon and at other fine booksellers. Or you can get a copy directly through his website, www.drshawngreener.com, where you can also listen to interviews and speeches and messages free of charge. Show archives are available on iTunes through drshawngreener.com.